Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing good. Today we are going to explore shared preference in Android using Kotlin language. It is most important to save data of our application. So shared preference is one of the best way to save data in form of key and value. So today we are going to check out the introduction of shared preference. After that we will check out shared preference in our application and we will also see the best practice to use shared preference. So watch the video till end. If you have not subscribed to our channel, subscribe to our channel and support us. So let's begin. So Android provides many ways to store data for our application. One of the best way is shared preference. Now shared preference allow us to store data and retrieve data in the form of key and value. Let's move to our Android Studio and see the example of shared preference. So here I have created blank new project. First we will create a class for shared preference. So here in the new tab I am selecting Kotlin class and file, and here select the class and we will give the class name as sharedPref. After that here we will take the argument of context. Now we have to create some objects. For using shared preference, first we have to initialize the shared preference. After that we have to call editor method for saving data in the shared preference, and at the end we have to commit the data. So we will create the object of shared preference. So write pref colon shared preference. After that we will create the object for editor. So write editor colon shared preference dot editor, and here we will create the object of context. So write val context colon context equal to, here we are passing the context of this argument. Now we have to initialize this object. So write init, and in this bracket we will initialize like pref equal to context dot get shared preference. Now this method is used to initialize the shared preference, and here we have to pass two arguments, first for our preference name and second for our preference mode. So let's create the object of shared pref name. So write private val pref underscore name equal to share pref demo, and second we will create the pref mode. So write private val private mode equal to 0. So we have to pass this both variable to this get preference method. Now we have to initialize the editor. So write editor equal to pref dot edit. So we have initialized this. Now if we have to check that user have launched this application at first time or it launched the application at second time. So here we are creating the method that set the data that user enter first time or second time. So fun set first time launch, and in this bracket we will get the argument as boolean. So write is first time colon boolean, and in this method we will store our data. So to store the data we have to call editor dot put boolean, and here we have to pass one key. So we have to create one key. So write private val is first time, and here we have to specify the key, and simply copy this object and paste it here, and here we have to pass this value. So here we have passed the key and this is our value, and after that we have to commit. So write editor dot apply. So it will commit our data. Now to retrieve this data we will create another method. So is first time launch and we will return boolean, and here we will write return pref dot. To retrieve the data, we will call the object of set preference. After that, we will call the method get boolean, and we have to pass our key. So our key is first time, and after that we have to pass one default value. So in our case, default value is true. So it is the best practice to write all the set preference method in one class. So it is easy to retrieve all. In this app, we will store two things, username and user email. So quickly we will create the key for username, and we will also create the key for user email. Now we will create the method to store the username. So write fun set username, and in this bracket we will get the username. So name colon, the name is type of string, so we will pass the string, and here we have to store the string data. So write editor dot put string, and here we have to pass our key. So our key is username, and we have to pass the string. So our string is name. Now at the end we have to commit this. So editor dot apply, and here we will create the function for get this username. So write get username, and it will return the string data. So we will write return pref dot get string, and first we have to pass the key. After that we have to pass the default. So default we will pass admin, and at the end we have to call toString method. And lastly, we will create the method for user email. So write set user email, and in the bracket we will pass the email as string, and we have to store this data in our set preference. So write editor dot put string, and here we have to pass the key. After that we have to pass the argument, and at the end we have to commit. And here we will create one method to get the user email. So write get user email, and it will return string data. So pref dot get string, and here we have to pass the key, and after that we have to pass the default value. So our default value is admin@gmail.com, and at the end we will call toString method. And here we have forgot return keyword. So we have created our set preference class. Now whenever we have to store the data, we have to simply create the object of set preference class, and then we will call this method. So it will store the data and retrieve the data using these get methods. I hope you have understood this concept. This is the best practice to write all the set preference methods in one class. Now let's create one welcome activity and check that user is launched this application first time or second time. So right click on this package name, and in the new tab go to the activity, and in the activity tab you can find empty activity, and here we will give the activity name as welcome, and we will finish. Now let's move to our design part and change the layout to linear layout, and we will set the orientation to vertical. Now here we will take one button for check that user is entered for first time or user is entered as second time. So we will take one button, and we will give the height and width to wrap content. We will give the text as login, and we will set the ID as btn, and we will set the layout gravity to center. Now let's move to welcome.kt file and create the object of button. So write btn button equal to find view by id, and here we have to pass the button id. Now we have to write the click event of this btn, and in this click event first we have to check that user is entered first time or second time. For that first we have to create the object of set preference. So write val set preference equal to set preference, and here we have to pass the context and write application. Now here we have to check that if set preference dot is first time launch, if this method return true, then we will move the user to home screen, else we will register the user. So here we will write the intent as start activity, and in this bracket we will write intent, and first we have to pass our context. After that we have to pass the navigation class. So main activity colon class.java. So if user have not registered, then it will go to this main activity. Now let's move to this main activity and get the username and password from the user. So open this main activity and we will first design the activity. So here I have already designed this activity as first we will get the username, after that we will get the user email, and at the end we will set the button to save this data. So let's move to our main activity.kt file and write the code. So here we will quickly create the object for edit text and our button. So name colon edit text equal to find view by id, and in this bracket we will pass the id of the edit text. After that we will create the object for email, and here we will pass the id of email, and at the end we will quickly create the object of button, and in this bracket we will pass the id of this button. Now we will write the click event of this button, and when user click on this button we have to save our data. So we have to create one object for set preference, and here we have to pass the context. So now you can understand that it is an easy way to create the object of set preference and directly call the method and store the data. So write set preference dot set username, and here we will pass the username. So write name dot text dot toString. After that we will store the email. So write set preference dot set email, and here we will pass the email. So write email dot text dot toString. Here we have to also set that user have launched the application first time. So write set preference dot set first time launch equal to false. So we have done this. Now after saving this data we will move the user to our home screen. So let's create one activity and retrieve the data from the state preference. So in this home activity let's move to our designing part and design two text view. Change this layout to linear layout and set the orientation to vertical. Now here we will take two text view. First for displaying username and second for displaying email. So write width to match parent and height to wrap content. We will set the text size to 20 sp and we will set the id as txt name. Simply copy this text view and paste it below and change the id as txt email. So we have created these two text view. Now simply retrieve our data and set to this text view. So open home activity and create the object for text view. So write name colon text view and write find view by id, and in this bracket we will pass the object. After that create the object of email. So write email text view equal to find view by id, and in this bracket we will pass the id, and at the end we will also create one object for set preference to retrieve our data, and in this bracket we have to pass the context. Now to set the data we will write name dot text equal to set preference dot get username. So it will get the username from the set preference and set to the text view. After that we will set the email. So write email dot text equal to set preference dot get user email. I hope you will understand the set preference concept. I have simply tried to explain this concept as much as possible. You can get this code. Link is given in the description box. If you like this tutorial, comment below and don't forget to subscribe our channel. Now So here we have done one small mistake, that if user is enter in the application as the first time, then we have to launch this main activity, and if user is enter a second time, then we have to launch the home activity. Now let's run the code and see the output. So here we can see our application is running. Now let's click on this login button and see what happened. It have launched the main activity because we have launched this application as first time. Now let's type the name and also type the email. Now let's click on this save data. So our data is saved. Now relaunch this application and see what's happened. So it have launched the welcome screen. Now let's click on this login button. So we can see it have shows the data that we have entered in the first screen. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you have understand shared preference. If you have any query, comment below or DM us on Instagram. Stay tuned.